as far as like a concept for production distribution, seems very exciting. The Strangers Chapter 1, with chapters 2 and 3 going to follow up later this year, or in the next year or whatever. And that's definitely going to happen. As Brett said earlier in the podcast, this movie had an $8 million budget. It made 12. It's going to go on and make 20 and 40 over, la 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 la. We're getting parts 2 and part 3. So how are they rebooting it, or is it a sequel, or what is it? It's neither, Brett, a remake or a sequel or a prequel. It's like another thing that these 3 guys wearing the masks do. And this movie is super insistent on turning the 3 bad guys with the masks from The Strangers into like, Michael Myers or Chucky or something. They really are trying to hammer home like, these are horror icons now. I insist. The Strangers guys, like a lot of that myth making in the film here. But ultimately, Brett, as the movie credits rolled and as I stood up, like by the time my knees like got straight, I had forgotten what the movie was about. I was completely of sound mind. And I was excited for the film. It wasn't like, oh, I like fucked up. I was so drunk. I did nothing.
We all phone this in.
No.
We are film critics.
We're film critics. I went like during the day. I like watched the movie.
We watched these movies.
Like for work, like for this moment right now. And as I was standing up, like when my butt left the seat and by the time it got all the way up to where I stand, I had already forgotten what I had watched. Seriously though, this movie was very disappointing because it's just very much a rehash of The Strangers, Brett. It hits a lot of the beats you might have liked and remembered from the early 2000s horror movie The Strangers and just sort of rehashes them, but it's not unsettling this time because the camera work's poor, and it's not unsettling this time because the script is bad, the actors are bad, the setup is silly. It has 2 young attractive actors from Riverside, neither of whom are given anything to act. Who knows if these kids are good at acting? I'm sure they're very talented. Like they're not in a real movie with a real script. They're just like doing a horror movie. They do fine. And then, the whole thing about The Strangers is they why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Right. And the bad guy leans over and is like, because you were in the house,
because
right?
You were here. Oh, yeah. Or, because you were home.
Because you were home.
Because you were home.
In this one, it's like, because you were here, or like whatever the reason is. But then there's a very sexualized stabbing where in the climax of this film, the guy with the burlap sack face stabs the woman, whatever, in her private area, excuse me, whatever. And it's so graphic and violent all of a sudden. And I'm like, okay, well, it seems very fucking crystal clear why you were here. Some sort of sick, perverse, fucking twisted sex thing. Why are you being obtuse about it, The Strangers?
Yeah.
So stupid.
Ooh, I don't like that.
No, Brett, I didn't like it either. And like, because it just didn't earn it. It was so graphic and vile and upsetting without like having anything foundationally over the past hour and 20 minutes that it like earns that type of a thing. It's very like shocking, jarring, and ugly, and very didn't work. And it's not about it being too violent. It's about it being unearned.
That's like serial killer ritual, but that's not what The Strangers is.
No. Yeah,
that's not the appeal
such
of
a
The Strangers.
miss. Also at the end, it like cuts to a woman in a bed and she like wakes up in the hospital and she goes, and then it goes to be continued. And then I was like, wait, now fuck. I don't think that woman was in the movie yet. Like it's setting up like I was like,
it got confused.
Don't quote me on it, but I was like, maybe like in the beginning we met this woman or something, but I was like, I don't know what. It set up a movie that I had no context for, and then it's like part 2. I'm going to go to part 2. I'm going to go to part 3. A, because of the podcast. B, because I'd go anyway because it's fucking horror movie. Yeah. But Brett, ultimately, it's just a wash. It's not like it's the worst horror movie of the year, but it's certainly a stinker. On the power rankings, I'd put it below First Omen. I put it below Immaculate, but I would put it slightly above Abigail, slightly above Late Night with the Devil. Only because those movies really grinded my gears. But there's nothing to see here, folks, unless you're a horror freak. Like it's just not a great movie.
Unless you're like a horror completist.
Unless you're a completist, or unless you're hosting the podcast Movies, Baby. Yeah. 5 Whys, there's no reason.
We've seen this interesting trend though. We saw it with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, where studios need to like refresh the franchise. Or in this case, it's not even a franchise, but they need to like. This is clearly like they're just redoing They're basically erasing the first one.
They're clean slating it.
They're redoing the
new
first one.
genning it. These kids have cell phones. The strangers.
And all of these little details that you hated are probably things that are, again, like it's like every time I see stuff in a movie, I'm like, is this just like so you can have a thread for the franchise? Like this is something that's going to, like, I don't know.
To be continued
half the time.
Like, what? To be continued what? Like these 3 people invaded this house, killed the 2 people. And
truly the word. Like,
to be continued what?
I'm honestly pissed off. I love the original Strangers.
Me too.
The appeal of the original Strangers is in its like isolation as an isolated movie because there is no. It's so chilling at the end. When
the horror of the Strangers is it really feels like unprompted.
It feels pointless,
and this feels very like purposeful.
Exactly.
Chapter 1, so it's not scary, right? Exactly, Brett.
No,
right.
When the original when they said because you were home and it just all feels pointless and there was no personal motivation,
terrifying.
There's nothing you could track. That is terrifying. Could that combine with home invasion? Terrifying.
But to like use it as a universe setup.
I swear to God, if you start packing in lore into the Strangers, I'm fucking revolted.
Dude, it was a lore fest, or at least it suggested
it's like a pre-lore fest.
It was a pre-lore fest.
Yeah, the lore is coming,
and the frame was like, there are 1 million crimes in America every year. Here's just one of those crimes.
Great.
It's like anti-crime nonsense.
I can't
Kill
wait
yourself.
I can't wait to find out how Bagface from the Strangers, like how his wife
Bagface
died.
origins, and then there's like the 2 Betty Boops, and like I can't wait to hear like I bet they're fucked up. I can't wait to learn about their twisted past.
How dare you?
I don't know, Brett.
Something's deserved to be a mystery.
It seems on its face, that being said, like a good idea. Like I was really hyped for
I was very
this
excited.
trilogy, and now
excited.
it's just a wash. Whatever.
Yeah.